Well, welcome. Welcome to this PowerPoint where we are going to introduce you to the Critical Reading Inventory online. And the agenda for this specific PowerPoint: first, how do you sign in? And then, once you're signed in, how do you access and navigate through the components of the Critical Reading Inventory? And we're going to suggest that you use the self-monitoring checklist that we provide for you. So let's get started. And that means you go to the website, www.thoughtfulliteracy.com. And when you access the website, in the center you will see Critical Reading Inventory. And right above that, sign in here. Click there. That takes you to the home website. Now, for the first time, you come down to the bottom where it says, if you have not registered, click here. So the sign-in process begins there with the click here. And that will take you to the price list, ask you for some basic information, and guide you to pay through credit card with PayPal, or if you choose to send a check. Then after that, you will be sent your password. So from then on, as it says here, if you have already registered, enter your email to begin. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to enter my email and hit send. That takes me now to a check start where I say click here to start, and then we have the authentication requirement. Once you have your password, you can ask the system to remember in the same way it remembers mine. So I simply say log in. Now here I am, I'm at the home base. And you can see here there are 4 major components to the Critical Reading Inventory. The first is the manual. And you can see there are 5 sections to the manual. Section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Section 1 will introduce you to the Critical Reading Inventory. It will discuss the research that led to its creation. And then you read the second section, the description of the Critical Reading Inventory. We suggest that you read those primarily without an intense study purpose, but to become familiar with the elements of the inventory. However, when you get to section 3, folks, your purpose changes. Your purpose becomes mastery. What will aid you in this mastery is that all the sections that are going to be discussed in this administration and scoring will have already been discussed in section 2, the description. All right, so what I'm going to do is activate section 3 because there are some things I want to point out. First of all, the top right-hand corner, there is an icon that has a printer. So should you choose to print this, you would click on, and then you get the options that are available to you. However, we suggest that you read from the computer. Don't forget, we want to save trees. Let's look at the icons here. The first icon will enable you to fit this all into one page. And if you have perfect eyesight and you can do that, you could read in that format. However, if you're like how I am, I like to zoom in. And there is your second icon. If I click it up and I say, wait, I don't need it that large, the third one enables me to adjust by decreasing. So there you have the structure of the PDF file. As you go through this, you will see that each of the categories of the inventory now are discussed in detail from the perspective of how to administer them. So that's a very important element. Section 4, are you ready? Again, heavy purpose for mastery. And why is that? It's the interpretation of the test results. If you can't do something with the data that the inventory generates, then you've really lost the primary purpose of why we learn to administer inventories. So this section will provide you with that kind of information. Again, here's your printer and your other icons. Then, Section 5, that provides you with the technical features of the critical reading inventory. Now your purpose adjusts, and you read for general background information. You're then provided with the references and also a summary of the procedures. Now, that is the first component. Let's now move to the second component, the examiner forms. These are the forms that you would print out prior to the administration of the interview with the student with whom you're working. So what's available for you? First of all, we have the interviews. And as you can see, there are 2 student interviews. You will have read about those in Section 2 of the manual, and in full detail what to do with them in Section 3, the administration and scoring. So what do they look like? I'll click here to the grade 5 through 12. Again, it's a PDF file. You print out and then you go ahead and use that. We also have a parent-guardian interview, and we have a teacher interview. All 3 types are to be used when you provide a comprehensive assessment. Now to the second category. Here we have the materials that you will need to administer the narrative passages. In this section, the materials needed to administer the informational sections. So you will already know by the time that you come to here that there are narrative and informational passages. Let's look at the examiner form of the passages, because when you click that, the whole list comes in front of you. Let's peek here. Let's try 3rd grade, 3rd story. Notice there are 3 stories for each grade level. So I'm going to click here. There's something important to attend to. Why? This is a PDF file. And as soon as I click on the title of the passage that I want, the system automatically downloads. Now my computer provides the download right at the bottom left. You'll see it here. Other computers have a special downloading category and placement. You will go to the placement in your computer where downloads are kept. Once you go to there, you activate the file, and here's your Word document. At the top, you will see Enable Editing. You click that on, and this is what you have printed out prior to the administration. And during the administration, which you will always be guided to record, you are just simply jotting down with pen or pencil the information. However, after that's completed, you come back to the file, and now you're ready here to type in the student responses and save it in that professional format, which also will allow you to make it far more professional, delete the unnecessary lines. All right, so that is the Word document. Again, click on the name of the story. Again, I'll show you. The system automatically downloads. You simply go to the download component, click it on, and there, once again, you have the story. And let's get back now. So we've looked at narrative, but just to let you see, the informational passages work the same way. You click them on, and the list appears. All right? Now, what else is included with the narrative? There is a recapitulation record here. Let me suggest here that the recapitulation record, when you print it out, will require that you use a pen to insert the data. You are required to do all your own calculations. We have provided for you the automated scoring and interpretation interview, which is called the ASII. Using that, everything is done automatically. So while this is available, we suggest that you use the ASII. The same thing holds true with the scoring rubric. The retelling rubric's rather complicated, so we suggest that you use the ASII. So there we have, in both narrative and informational, you have the passages, the recapitulation record, and the informational retelling scoring. Now move on. Two sets of word list, A and B. This enables you to do pre and post testing. So you would use one set for the pre and one set for the post. What do the word lists look like? What you would do is click on the level that you want, and again, PDF file. That means you will print this out. Prior to the testing, you have it available, and here is where you record the student's response to both flash and untimed. Now, the last thing we have is the oral reading fluency rubric. This is used, again, PDF format. You would print this out and click it on. Again, this is paper and pencil. We suggest using the ASII, and that will be done with your computer. Two components reviewed: manual, examiner forms. These are for you to have printed out prior to the testing. What else do you need? The student forms. Here you have the narrative stories that the students will look at, the informational stories the students will look at, the first set of word list and the second set. So let's look at those. Again, when you click them on, they appear. The younger stories, PDF, have pictures included. When you get to the older stories, simply the text. So you would, once again, PDF format, print out, and this is the passage that you would hand to the student. So here are the stories that you would use. You have the identical structure for the informational passage. You have the young stories with the pictures, and again the older stories with plain text. You print those out prior to testing and have them available for the students. What do the word lists look like? Remember, the examiners had lines for you to record. However, this, the student form, merely has the words. You will have learned how to flash those and present the untimed and the timed. So now we've gone through the third major component: manual, examiner forms, and student forms. Now we come to the help section, where you will have, first of all, an overview. Then you will have tutorials. Let us point out here, there is a special PowerPoint totally designed to guide you through the tutorials. We also have videos, case studies, and the miscue analysis sheet. So let's just quickly look at the tutorials. When you come to the tutorials, here are the passages that will guide you to learn the comprehension items. Again, we suggest you make use of those. View the PowerPoint. What about the videos? Here you have the list of the videos. Here you have the actual videos that model the various components included here. That's this major way we help you. The next help, 2 case studies. Pseudonyms for a student named John and one Tamika. When you go to those, they again are PDF files. You print out and study and learn from them. The last is the miscue analysis. Again, it is a Word document. The minute I click it on, the system will download it. I go to the downloaded file, click it on, and you will see here the structure to analyze miscues. Again, this will be something you're very familiar with after you have done the careful review of sections 3 and 4 of the manual. Again, let's quickly point out that there is an automated scoring and interpretation interview which does most of these things automatically. So we can say goodbye now to the critical reading inventory, but before we leave, we want to point out something very significant: higher level responses. Most people have consensus with text-based items when they're even scoring. Why? Because they're in the text, and there tends to be a right answer and a wrong answer. However, when it gets to critical thinking as a reading skill, the critical thinking must make use of information in the story. Why is that? Because many students have outstanding prior knowledge and use the prior knowledge as the basis for the response to a higher level question. A response that's based on prior knowledge may be an inference, but it's not a reading inference. It may be a critical response, but it's not a critical reading response. So what's our solution? That's why we encourage you to do the tutorials. Again, there's a PowerPoint guiding you through the tutorials. Please use that. Remember, we have a self-check. And here this is available for you. What we've tried to do is visualize the type of reading you need to do and point out here you're reading for the purpose of ownership and mastering the third and the fourth sections of the manual. Once you do that, the next thing to master is the information that you need as an examiner. The interviews, the stories. Before you go to that administration time period, know that story, the range of stories that you've selected. Know them like your name. Other than that, you have a hard time on the spot scoring students' responses. Here you have the student forms and finally the help. Notice we strongly suggest that you know that tutorial and you know the MISCU analysis. At the bottom you have your reminders. Click, if it's a Word file, you click on that file, the system automatically downloads. You simply click the downloaded. For PDF, there is a printer icon. And now we're going to say goodbye, but it's just for now. Why? We will see you real soon as you become better acquainted with the critical reading inventory.